You are not physically trapped, but mentally conditioned. When people say they feel trapped, they often imagine an external force keeping them stuck, perhaps a difficult job, an unhappy relationship, or a lack of opportunities. But if we look deeply, we will see that the real trap is not outside, it is within the mind. The physical world offers limitless possibilities, yet many remain caged in their own thoughts, unable to see beyond their conditioned pattern. The prison is not made of iron bars. It is made of fear, doubt, and rigid beliefs that have been accumulated over time. From the moment we are born, society begins shaping our minds. Parents, teachers, media, and culture all feed us ideas about what is possible and what is not. They tell us who we should be, how we should think, and what success, happiness, and love should look like. Over time, these ideas become our reality, and we forget that they are just borrowed concepts, not absolute truths. We no longer question them. We simply accept them as the rules of life. This is where the conditioning begins. The power of this mental conditioning is so strong that even when we have the ability to change, we do not act. A bird raised in a cage may not fly away even when the door is open, because it has never known true freedom. Similarly, we often do not explore possibilities outside our comfort zone because we have been taught to fear the unknown. The walls of our mental prison may not be real, but as long as we believe in them, they are just as effective as real walls. Think about a person who wants to start a business but does not, because they believe they are not smart enough or not lucky enough. Where did these beliefs come from? No one is born thinking this way. These are ideas they have absorbed from society, experiences, or past failures. And yet, these invisible thoughts are powerful enough to hold them back, just as if they were chained to the ground. Another example is people who stay in unhappy situations because they believe they have no choice. A job that drains them, a relationship that brings only suffering, or a life routine that feels lifeless. Why do they stay? Not because they are physically trapped, but because their mind has convinced them that leaving is impossible, risky, or wrong. The moment they start questioning this belief, new possibilities will appear, but until then, they remain in the illusion of being stuck. The most dangerous part of mental conditioning is that it operates without our awareness. People do not realize they are trapped because the cage is made of thoughts, not visible barriers. If someone is locked in a room, they will fight to get out. But when someone is locked in a belief, they may never even try to escape. They simply accept their limitations as reality. This is why mental conditioning is more powerful than any physical restriction. It controls not just what we do, but what we believe we can do. The truth is, there is no external force holding most people back. The limits exist only in the mind. If you take two people with the same circumstances, one will find a way forward while the other will remain stuck. Why? Because one has broken free from conditioned thinking while the other is still a prisoner of their own mind. The same world, the same opportunities, but completely different realities. Until we recognize the mental conditioning that holds us back, we will continue to feel trapped, even in the most open and free environment. The mind is like a powerful river. If we do not take control of its direction, it will carry us wherever the currents of past conditioning lead. But once we take charge, we can redirect the flow, breaking free from old patterns and stepping into a new way of living. Your beliefs and fears create the illusion of being stuck. Every thought you have about your limitations, every fear that holds you back, and every doubt that whispers you can't is not coming from reality. It is coming from your own mind. What you call being stuck is not a condition of the world, but a perception shaped by what you believe about yourself and your circumstances. You are not truly trapped. You only feel trapped because you have convinced yourself that there is no way out. This is the greatest illusion that keeps people from living fully. Beliefs are incredibly powerful because they shape the way we see the world. If you believe you are incapable of achieving something, your mind will look for evidence to confirm that belief. If you believe you are not worthy of success, you will sabotage your own opportunities. These beliefs act as invisible chains, restricting your potential, not because of real-world barriers, but because of the way your mind interprets reality. The more you reinforce these beliefs, the stronger the illusion of being stuck becomes. Fear plays an equally crucial role in this illusion. The mind is designed to protect you from danger, but it often confuses real threats with imagined ones. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of uncertainty. None of these fears are actual barriers, yet they feel just as real as a physical wall. You hesitate to take action, not because you can't, but because your mind has created a story about what might go wrong. And so instead of moving forward, you remain stuck in the safety of your comfort zone, believing the illusion that movement is impossible. Think of a person who wants to change careers but believes they are too old, too inexperienced, or not talented enough. None of these limitations exist outside their own mind. There are countless stories of people who made drastic changes later in life, proving that age or experience is not the problem. The real problem is the belief that it is too late. And because they hold on to this belief so strongly, they never take the first step, reinforcing their illusion of being trapped. The same happens in relationships. Many people stay in unhappy relationships because they believe they will never find someone better, or because they fear loneliness. This belief becomes so deeply ingrained that they do not even consider the possibility of a better life. Their reality is not dictated by actual circumstances, but by the fears and limiting beliefs they have accepted as truth. If they could see beyond these mental barriers, they would realize that they were never truly stuck, only unwilling to face their fears. Even society reinforces this illusion of being trapped. From a young age, we are told to follow certain paths, to obey certain rules, and to accept certain limitations. We are taught that success looks a certain way, that happiness must follow a specific formula, and that stepping outside of these predefined structures is dangerous or foolish. Over time, we internalize these ideas and begin to believe that any deviation from the norm is impossible. But these are not laws of nature. They are simply ideas passed down through generations, and they can be changed. The most dangerous part of this illusion is that it feels real. If you have believed for years that you are not capable, not deserving, or not strong enough, it becomes difficult to question these thoughts. But that is exactly what needs to happen. The only way to break free is to challenge your beliefs, to ask yourself, is this really true? Or is this just something I have accepted without question? The moment you begin to doubt your own limitations, cracks will form in the illusion, and the possibility of freedom will start to emerge. You are not stuck because of reality. You are stuck because you have accepted a false version of reality. If you could see through the illusion of your fears and beliefs, you would realize that there are no walls around you, only the ones you have built in your mind. And just as you build them, you have the power to tear them down. Society, past experiences, and expectations shape your false limitations. From the moment you are born, the world starts shaping your perception of what is possible. You are not born with self-doubt or fear, you inherit them. The people around you, the experiences you go through, and the expectations placed upon you slowly build the walls of your mental prison. You are given labels, told what you can and cannot do, and subtly programmed to fit into a mold that was never designed for you as an individual. Over time, you internalize these ideas and they become the false limitations that define your life. Society has a way of conditioning people to accept limits without question. It tells you what success looks like, what happiness should be, and what path you must follow. From childhood, you are taught that good grades lead to a good job, which leads to a good life. But what happens if you don't fit this formula? What if your dreams don't align with the standard path? Society does not provide many answers. It only reinforces the fear of stepping outside the norm. This fear is what keeps many people feeling stuck, not because they lack ability, but because they fear disappointing others or making the wrong choices. Past experiences also shape the illusion of limitation. If you failed at something once, your mind stores that memory as proof that you are incapable. If you were rejected in the past, you begin to believe you are not worthy. These experiences, though temporary, become permanent roadblocks in your mind. You stop trying not because you truly can't succeed, but because your past has convinced you that failure is inevitable. But what if failure was just a lesson and not a definition of who you are? What if rejection was simply redirection, not proof of your unworthiness? When you let past experiences dictate your future, you are voluntarily carrying a weight that does not belong to you. Expectations from family, culture, and even yourself play a major role in creating false limitations. Many people do not follow their true passions because they feel obligated to meet the expectations of others. They choose careers they do not love, stay in situations that do not fulfill them, and suppress their true desires because they fear judgment. This is one of the most common ways people become trapped, not by reality, but by their fear of breaking expectations. But who sets these expectations? Resistance to change is why do they hold so much power over you? Change is the most natural thing in life. Most expectations, the seasons are based on someone else's new paths and limitations. And even the cells in your body are constantly renewing themselves. Yet when it comes to our own lives, we resist change as if it is something unnatural or dangerous. This resistance is what creates the illusion of being stuck. It is your unwillingness to move with the flow of life that creates struggle. When you resist change, you are fighting against the very nature of existence itself. Most people do not consciously realize they are resisting change. They say they want growth, new opportunities, or a different life, but deep inside they fear what that might mean. Change requires letting go of the familiar, and the human mind clings to familiarity even when it is painful. A person may remain in a toxic relationship not because they are happy, but because they fear the Another may stay in a soul-draining job because the uncertainty of a new path feels scarier than the discomfort of staying. In both cases, the real struggle is not the situation itself. It is the fear of stepping into something different. Resistance to change often comes from attachment. You become attached to a certain identity, a way of living, or a particular outcome. When life starts pulling you in a new direction, you resist because you are afraid of losing what you have known. But attachment is like holding on to a rope that is being pulled away. You can either let go and move forward, or you can cling tightly and get dragged along painfully. The more you resist, the more you suffer. Another reason people resist change is because of control. The mind wants certainty, predictability, and the illusion of control. But life does not work this way. It is constantly shifting, evolving, and creating new possibilities. When you try to control everything, you are like a person standing in a river, trying to stop the water from flowing. No matter how hard you try, the current will continue. Instead of fighting against the flow, what if you learned to move with it? Fear is one of the biggest forces behind resistance. People fear failure, rejection, and uncertainty, so they stay in situations that feel safe even if they are unhappy. But in reality, nothing is truly safe. Change is always happening whether you like it or not. You cannot escape it, but you can choose how you respond to it. You can resist and struggle, or you can embrace it and adapt. The difference between suffering and growth is not what happens to you, it is how willing you are to move with life instead of against it. Think about nature. A tree does not resist the changing seasons. It sheds its leaves in autumn, stands bare in winter, and blooms again in spring. If it resisted, it would break. But because it moves with the cycles of life, it thrives. Humans, on the other hand, often refuse to adapt. They want things to stay the same, even when change is necessary. This resistance creates frustration, disappointment, and suffering. When you stop fighting change and start working with it, you will begin to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles. Resistance also comes from old beliefs and conditioning. You may have been taught that change is risky, that stepping into the unknown is dangerous. But is it? Or is that just something you have been conditioned to believe? When you start questioning these ideas, you realize that most of your fears are not based on reality, they are based on stories you have been told. When you let go of these stories, change stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like an invitation. The moment you stop resisting, life opens up. The struggles you once felt start to dissolve, not because life has changed, but because your attitude towards change has shifted. You begin to see that being stuck was never about your circumstances. It was about your resistance to moving forward. Life is not against you, it is always offering new paths. The only question is, are you willing to take them? You cling to the known, even when it no longer serves you. The human mind craves familiarity. Even when a situation is painful, even when it drains you, even when you know deep down that you need to move on, something inside you resists. Why? Because the known, no matter how limiting, feels safer than the unknown. This is one of the greatest paradoxes of life. People remain stuck not because they lack opportunities, but because they refuse to let go of what they already know. The prison is not external, it is built from attachments to habits, identities, and circumstances that no longer serve them. Think about how many people stay in jobs they hate, relationships that make them unhappy, or routines that make them feel lifeless. They say they want change, but when faced with the possibility of something new, they hesitate. It is not because they cannot leave, it is because they have built their sense of security around these familiar things. Even suffering, when repeated long enough, becomes a kind of comfort. It is predictable, it is known, and so people choose the certainty of discomfort over the risk of freedom. Letting go feels difficult because it forces you to step into uncertainty. The mind wants guarantees. If I leave this job, will I find a better one? If I let go of this relationship, will I be happier? But life does not provide guarantees, it only provides opportunities. Those who move forward do not do so because they are certain of the outcome. They do so because they recognize that holding on to the past is keeping them trapped. They understand that growth is impossible without release. Clinging to the known also comes from identity. People say, this is just who I am, as if their personality, habits and patterns are fixed. But nothing in nature stays the same. Why should you? The person you were 5 years ago is not the person you are today. Yet many live as if their past defines them. If they have always been shy, they assume they will always be shy. If they have always played it safe, they assume risk is not for them. But these are not truths, they are just habits of being. And habits can be changed. Fear of regret also keeps people stuck. They think, what if I let go and later realize I made a mistake? This fear convinces them to stay in situations long after they have stopped growing. But what they fail to see is that regret does not come from leaving, it comes from staying where you do not belong. Every moment spent clinging to something that no longer serves you is a moment lost. A moment that could have been spent discovering something greater. Another reason people struggle to let go is emotional attachment. Even when something is no longer serving them, they hold on to it because of nostalgia, sentimentality, or investment of time and energy. They tell themselves, I have already put in so much effort, I cannot just walk away now. But what they do not realize is that no amount of past effort justifies continuing something that does not bring joy, growth or fulfillment. Time spent in the wrong place will never turn it into the right place. Letting go is not about loss, it is about making space for what truly belongs in your life. Imagine trying to fill a cup that is already overflowing with stale water. No matter how pure the fresh water you pour in, it will only mix with the old. To receive something new, you must first empty the cup. This is how life works. You cannot welcome better opportunities, deeper relationships or new experiences if your hands are still tightly gripping what no longer serves you. The truth is, life is always changing, whether you resist it or not. You can cling to the old and feel stuck, or you can release it and make room for growth. The only real question is, do you have the courage to trust that what is ahead is greater than what you are leaving behind?